obviously when things came out, it was all sunshine lollipops. It was, well, not really sunshine lollipops, but he was saying, hey, look, it's taken a physical and emotional toll on me and a mental toll, and I've had death threats. Since then, Jon Heyman reporting today that Mike Shildt's disagreements with staff almost led to a fight with a coach. And the quotes from Kevin Acee's story that we will see are notable. One of the reasons I'm going to leave is the inability to please everybody. Now, he apparently has a really strident idea as to how a baseball team should be run. And he thinks that there should be uniformity in the way that that team should be run. So he said, I partnered with a lot of people, more people than not. But those that didn't want to partner with me, that didn't want to do things the way I wanted them done, that is his inability to please everybody. And I guess there were enough people, Matthew, that weren't pleased that they threatened to leave. And coaches said, hey, I'm going to listen. And if I can get another gig to get away from this guy, I am going to go. So whether that presented physical or emotional stress, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things through here. And another one, this one from Acee in his reporting. Nearly 20 sources characterize Shildt as unyieldingly demanding of his coaching staff and possessing a quick temper that is easily triggered by questioning or feedback.
Yeah, you can't do that. Everything in every sports team's lexicon these days, when a new manager is hired, when a new general manager is hired, when a new POBO or a POHO is hired, every single time a person is hired, the term collaboration and collaborative comes up. And apparently, and I never worked with Mike Shildt in a professional manner. When I worked with him as a media member, got along with him great, loved him, was shocked when he wasn't going to come back to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals did a really good job of keeping their philosophical differences under wraps. But Mike apparently is not a guy that wants to be collaborative with the people on his staff. Mike Martz always talked about, and remember all the big changes he made after the Rams had that horrible 2000 season with the bad defense. And he turned over a lot of the staff, and he said, I need to have chemistry on my staff because we're around each other all the time. We're around each other more than we're around our families. That's the way it is with a baseball team too, and a baseball coaching staff. Those people have to be on the same page. You can't have a baseball coaching staff where the demands are such that people want to leave. And one of the great things about Ollie Marmol, his staff really likes him. He likes working with them. That clearly was the case with Tony La Russa. When you look at Dave McKay over the years, Jose Oquendo over the years, Mark McGuire for the last couple of years that he was here, the relationship with Dave Duncan, Tony clearly was on the same page as his staff. Dick Vermeil, the same way. What you have to do, and this is apparently something that Mike Shildt did not do, and this is an old Dick Vermeil thing that I would do if I were ever in charge of anything. If I were a president of a bank or a president of hockey operations or baseball operations or whatever, you need to hire good people that you trust and let them do their jobs. You can't hire a bunch of people and say, okay, that's not the way I want the job done. You have to do it this way. You have to hire them, trust, and that's the biggest part of the process. Trust them to do the job well, and then get out of their way and let them do their jobs. One of the stupidest things that a sports team can do is not understand what a person in charge is all about. Now, I don't know what the situation with the Padres is, but think about Urban Meyer when he went to the Jaguars. How could the Jaguars have not done their due diligence to find out what kind of a guy he was and what sort of power he needed to have, and then the way that he would wield that power? Anytime you have a coach in any sport that's one and done or less than one and done, you haven't done your job in hiring the right person. You have the person that does the hiring of a one and done coach, that person should be out of there too.
More quotes here from Mike Shildt in the Kevin Acee story. Incredible reporting by him. I have to accept the inability of making everyone happy, but it's one of the factors in my decision. That's right there from Mike Shildt saying that his inability to deal with everyone is part of this decision.
Being a perfectionist, and I know people like this, is a blessing and a curse because you do desire to make things perfect. But the problem that being, especially when you're a person in charge that's a perfectionist, is you expect everybody else to be perfect, and not everybody is. In fact, very few people are perfect. So you need to find that perfect employee for you. And if you don't, and then you expect perfection, then you're not going to make that person happy. And that person's not going to make you happy. And that obviously happened with Mike with that quote. But that's pretty good self-awareness, that he has to accept the inability of making everyone happy. But it's one of the factors in my decision. Clearly, he knows now that he can't do that, and that's why he'll probably never manage in the majors again.
And another line here from the article, this is from Kevin Acee writing, Shildt sticking around for the duration of his contract seemed far more in question than would be assumed. Essentially saying all of this was coming to a head, and we might have seen something similar to a Cardinals situation.
Yeah, and you hear that and read that there was friction between he and AJ Preller, their general manager. And one thing that we know is that Mike was pretty demanding of Mo in terms of asking for certain players, and Mo didn't really want to, not that he didn't want to get them, but like I think it was June of 21 in Mike's last year here, and we've told this story before, but he goes to Mo and says, dude, I need a left-handed reliever. I don't have anybody down there in the bullpen to get anybody out. And apparently and I don't know the tone in which the request was made, but the response was, I get the blanking players, you manage the blanking players. And that kind of started the philosophical differences, is that Mike has certain things that he wants from people, sometimes a left-handed reliever, and it doesn't always work.
Getting some comments here. Jerry Franks, with all this coming out, Mo is vindicated in his firing of Mike Shildt.
Kind of is, yeah.
By the way, it's kind of crazy. Yesterday was the anniversary. October 14th, 2021 is when they announced that. Yesterday was the anniversary. Absolutely insane to me that it happened right around the exact same time.
And by the way, I think there were definitely some personal issues, because he fired the guy over the phone and started the conversation by saying, this call isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. So I think that the disdain for Mike Shildt on the part of John Mozeliak was pretty apparent just with the way he fired.
And then AC went into what happened in St. Louis. He talked about how he has multiple sources now from people who played in people who were working in St. Louis, who said that they were willing to take other jobs away from the St. Louis Cardinals if Mike Shildt remained to be the manager. And to that point, AC says here, and the 2 years appear to show that he did not alter the way he dealt with the people who worked under him. And that's the big overarching thing you get from these comments from what happened now in San Diego. And if you had your ear to the ground, things you heard rumblings about from here in St. Louis.
And here's the thing. It wasn't people above him. It's one thing if you complain about what you're getting from the people above you, but it was the way he treated people a rung below, 2-3 rungs below him. And apparently those sorts of people who have, at least in our organization, the Cardinal organization, been there for a long time and worked for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about people that worked for Whitey Herzog and Joe Torre and Tony La Russa and Mike Matheny before they got to Mike Shildt, and people that adored those guys who just could not abide the way that they were treated by Mike Shildt. And I've heard about people. I've never heard specifically from people, but I've heard about people within the Cardinal organization that have been there for a long time, that have worked for multiple Hall of Fame managers, and they were ready to get on out of there. And some people, by the way, did get on out of there during Mike Shilt's tenure, and it just didn't work. Now, that being said, I don't want you to think that everybody didn't like Mike Shildt. Mike Shilt's best friend, Mark DeJean, was the Cardinals minor league coordinator, a great baseball man, a George Kissel disciple. When Mike Shildt got fired, Mark DeJean retired immediately because he hated the way that the Cardinals treated Mike Shildt. There were other big-time Mike Shildt devotees within the organization that didn't understand the firing. But one thing about being the Pobo is that you see everything that goes on. If you don't see it, you at least hear about it from somebody. And it would have been easy until these last 48 hours to say, you know what, the Cardinals were too thin-skinned. The Cardinals, they did the wrong thing in firing Mike Shildt. Here's a guy that's had 5 full seasons of managing at the major league level, and each of those seasons resulted in a trip to the playoffs. It would have been, it could have been, it was very easy for us to say, you know what, that was a Cardinal thing. That wasn't a Mike Shildt thing. Now, all of a sudden, it's flipped, and it's a Mike Shildt thing rather than a Cardinal thing, because it's a Cardinal thing and a Padre thing, and the only common denominator is him.
And to that point, we're going to get to Anthony C's comment here in just a second, but there was another quote in there that the things Shildt was hearing were, quote unquote, eerily similar in the 2 places I've managed. And that was the reaction to his demand for perfection, how he expressed that demand, how he approached that demand, and how people then responded to that demand. He was hearing eerily similar things in the 2 places he's managed. That's it right there.
And I'd like to know what it was, because the players liked Shildt, especially the star players liked Shildt a lot here. And so I don't know if the demands were extraordinary. He allowed the players to speak their mind. Remember ball talk before every game? You get the team together and they would talk ball. Definitely a rooster, definitely a guy with a temper. We saw that on the field. That being said, it doesn't seem like he treated the players that way. It was his staff. It was whether it's training and equipment people and coaches, the people that you don't see front and center every day, apparently were the people that were mistreated, which is no way to go about being a leader.
Yeah, that really bothers me, because it's easy to see why he's deferential to the players. As a guy who talks about how he never played, and he talks about how he's never going to expect these players to that he knows he can't do it, so he's not going to ask too much of these guys. And I think they respect that. But clearly, being deferential in that direction is easy for him, and I respect that. I do not respect all the reports coming out that saying he pretty much is always kicking it down the ladder, that the support staff catches heat, and that in the article, Kevin Acee had multiple, and said there were multiple stories that he heard of anecdotes of him screaming at a support staff member and then immediately turning around, walking into the locker room with a huge smile on his face to greet all his players.
Yeah.
That's problematic. And there was an article in there. The Padres enlisted people internally to work with Shildt regarding his penchant to snap at colleagues and even superiors.
So, and some people just have a temper, and clearly that's the case with him, but that is not the way that you can do it in sports in 2025. There is no such thing left in sports as my way or the highway. There are too many people with too much juice in an organization or the ability to file an HR complaint that have changed things dramatically. It used to be that if you were a head coach or a manager, you could treat people like dirt, and the people that you treated like dirt would be the ones that are gone. Well, that's not the way it works anymore, because there are so many valuable people that are hard to replace within an organization. And I think a bigger thing, and I don't know if this has ever come up with Mike, but you bring up a situation there where he snapped at an employee. In any business realm right now, wherever you are, whether you're working for a podcast company, whether you're working for a TV station, an insurance company, a movie studio, if you don't treat people with respect and the way they should be treated as human beings, in the vast majority of business environments, somebody is going to go to HR and complain about it, and you're going to be either brought in and you're going to be warned, or you're going to be let go. In 2025, that's just the way it is. Maybe in 1985, 1975, it wasn't that way, but it is now, and it clearly is a case of Mike Shildt failing to be able to come to grips with the way that he needs to treat people. That is the bottom line here, is the way you treat people. And again, I'll say this about Mike Shildt. My personal interactions with him were all positive, but now there's too much smoke out there for there not to be a Mike Shildt fire, and the reason that he's gone from the Padres.
There was a couple quotes in there at the end. The people would apparently gather around in the organization, would gather around to watch his post-game press conferences after games because, and I have the quote up right now, Shildt would treat many queries as if they were personal attacks.
Yeah.
Saying that he was openly getting very hostile with the media. Did that development surprise you?
It did. And I heard the same thing after the Cardinals were out in San Diego, that the media hated him. And he got along with everybody here. I think he had a good relationship with Derek. I know he had a good relationship with Katie Wu, Bernie, me, Danny Mack, everybody that was around him, whether just John Rooney and Rick Horton, everybody that was around him on our level, on a media to manager level, got along with him. And I think part of that was because a lot of those people, if not most of them, had such a bad taste in their mouths because of the way things ended with Mike Matheny.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not have a good relationship with the media at the end. Again, I wasn't around every day, so I think it was easier for me. And I had that long relationship with Mike going all the way back to before he was ever a Cardinal. So, and I still have a great relationship, and I have a great deal of respect for Mike Matheny. But for the people that cover it on a daily basis, it's a different situation. And I think that Mike Shildt, for those people that are around it on a daily basis that had kind of been worn down as media members by Mike Matheny, I think they really appreciated Mike Shildt. And so I think there was, if he would have followed, if Shildt and Shilt's personality would have followed Whitey Herzog or Joe Torre, maybe it would have been different.
We got a text here from Anthony C. talking about Shilt's personality. Shildt reminds me of the Mike Martz head coach years, although Jim Haslett liked him. Haslett wanted to bring him back as OC before he was let go.
Well, here's the thing with Mike. And I don't know if he would agree with this now, but he had never been a head coach before he got the head coaching job. And he just soaked up all that power, and he couldn't get enough of it. And he did not lead the underlings, the staff, in a great manner. Now, again, Mike Martz's players absolutely adored him, except for Kurt Warner, of course. But Isaac, Marshall, Torrey, Orlando, Mark Bulger, even on the defensive side of the ball, a guy like Aeneas, they adored Mike Martz. But he was abusive of the power that he inherited. Now, the difference here is that I can almost understand to an extent a guy with his first head coaching job or his first managing job where he has power and he doesn't know how to treat that power. But once Shildt got a second chance, you've got to reflect while you're out and find a way to bring people together and become a better leader. You can be the manager, but that doesn't mean you're a leader. And you've got to find a way to become a better leader. And I think, by the way, one of the reasons that Mike Martz never got another head coaching job is because of the personality conflicts that he had with people within the organization, people above him, Dave Zygmunt, Charlie Army, and people below him, like telling a strength coach, brings a strength coach up to the office and promotes him, says, hey, you're now the head strength coach. Now go tell the guy that was your boss.
No.
That he
Mike,
is under you.
Mike, you can't do that.
Yeah,
no, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Because he thought it was just like a depth chart.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you're my starting middle linebacker. Yeah. Go tell the other one he's second string
not starting
now.
Anymore. Yeah.
He thought it was a depth chart.
Yeah.
It's not a depth chart, man.
Yeah.
People aren't used to that in regular jobs.
Yeah. But Anthony, that's a great call. And Haslett, if he would have gotten the job, absolutely was going to bring back Martz as the offensive coordinator and Dom Capers as the defensive coordinator. Yeah, that's what it was going to be. Pretty cool, huh?
And instead, they didn't hire Haslett. And they went out and got Linehan.
Oh, no, that was when Linehan got fired. They got Spags.
They went out and got Spags, even worse. God bless America. I hate thinking of
and here's an interesting one from Nancy Renee.
Yes, I like this.
As a self-prescribed perfectionist, as a leader, I learned quickly that there are many ways to accomplish a goal and to embrace others' ways and ideas. And I think that is, number one, that's one of those great Dick Vermeil traits, but I think it's the trait of any great leader. Joe Torre was that way. Joel Quenneville was that way. Tony was that. And even Tony could be brusque, but Tony was always accepting of different opinions and ideas. And he just let Dave Duncan do his thing. I mean, Dave Duncan, Tony knew what was going on, but Dave Duncan did pretty much with the pitching staff whatever he wanted. And that goes back to hiring good people and then accepting their ideas. And I think there's a great saying too, and this goes beyond what Shildt was doing or what he should have done. But when you're accepting of new ideas, there's a saying that if it ain't broke, break it, so that you foster new ideas. And I think that's probably one of the things that a guy like Shildt needed to do.
Yeah, and kind of it's crazy that all this did come to light. We had a comment here from Keith Adams. It's crazy that all these years passed and nobody said anything. So for 4 years, this was kept under wraps. Interesting. Listen, if you were listening to the right people, they were these rumblings were coming out about Shildt this entire season. I think there were a lot of people who thought this had continued from its time here in St. Louis. And listen, we all knew philosophical differences didn't just mean
no.
I like stealing bases more and you like stealing bases less. I want to bunt more. That's not what the philosophical differences was. It was clearly something deeper than that.
The way that people were being treated. Hey, Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st. Download the app now and place a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live, and DraftKings Sportsbook will bring everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when DraftKings officially goes live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. It's safe, it's secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live December 1st in Missouri. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.